Tom Lee just made an absolute bombshell $3 million Bitcoin price prediction on national news that I thought was so crazy, I've actually had to go and fact check the maths himself because his reasoning for why we could see a supply shock and a $3 million Bitcoin coming much quicker than most people think, it might catch you off guard. But when I ran the numbers of just the 3 brand new public companies who quietly bought a lot of Bitcoin this week, you guys are going to see that things are escalating because 3 brand new public companies just bought 10 weeks of the Bitcoin supply in the past 7 days alone. That's right, just 3 brand new public companies just bought 31,000 Bitcoin, and we know that there's less than 3,000 Bitcoin mined every single week. So today I'm going to be breaking down the state of the supply suffocation. I'm going to be explaining why I think we, you and me, only have a matter of days left. But before we get there, let's play the clip of Tom Lee.
Above ground gold, it's probably 95% of all Bitcoin's been mined, but 95% of the world doesn't own Bitcoin. So I just think that there's still a huge demand versus supply imbalance, meaning.
That's right, there is only 5% of the Bitcoin supply left, but that's not the most interesting part of this clip.
There's a lot more potential buyers of Bitcoin over the next 10 years. And so I think there's a lot of upside into year end.
Into your like 150 target.
Yeah, 150, maybe 200, even 250 this year.
What? 150 to 200 to even 250. And what's your? You don't have a terminal price on that, do you?
Well, it's I think at a minimum it should have the same network value as gold. And if you look at above ground gold, it's probably 23 trillion. So that would be 1.2 million for Bitcoin. But I think Bitcoin is more valuable than gold. So gold. I mean, Bitcoin could be 2 million, 3 million long term. I mean, even higher.
Even higher than $3 million Bitcoin. But let's fact check the maths and exactly what Tom Lee just referenced. He referenced a supply shock. And like I said in the introduction, I was genuinely surprised at just how critical I think the supply shock is now becoming. So this is the chart I showed you guys in the introduction. Where did I get these numbers from? Who are these brand new public companies who all adopted Bitcoin just this week? So we have a brand new publicly traded REITA. I don't know what that is, but it's a company called Logtech. They are raising $1.5 billion to buy Bitcoin. This is brand new news that came out this week. They are a publicly traded company who is listed on the NASDAQ. So if my math serves me correctly, $1.5 billion, is that 15,000 Bitcoin taken off the exchanges by one public company? Again, only 450 Bitcoin is mined every day. So I thought that was newsworthy. And I thought, okay, interesting. But guess what else I found when I started digging? Another brand new company also listed on the NASDAQ with the name K-Wave. They've just come out again this week, and they're going to be raising $500 million to buy more Bitcoin. Okay, another 5,000 coins stripped off the exchanges. And then I was even more interested when I saw this news headline come out from, guess what? A Spanish coffee company. That's right. We're not, just looking at companies in the tech space and Bitcoin treasury companies buying all the Bitcoin and taking it off the exchanges. We even have goddamn coffee suppliers buying 10,000 Bitcoin. Check this out. How much money are they raising? A Spanish coffee chain called Vanadi Coffee is purchasing $1.1 billion of Bitcoin for its treasury. And guess what that means? That is another 11,000 Bitcoin stripped off of the exchanges. And these are just 3 public companies who have come out this week. Let's not forget what happened last week at the Bitcoin conference. Vivek Ramaswamy's Strive, they announced a $750 million Bitcoin raise. That is another 7,500 Bitcoin ripped off the exchanges. We also have Trump's backed media company. Didn't they recently raise like $2.3 billion to, guess what? Buy more Bitcoin. That's 23,000 coins stripped off the exchanges. So I hope you guys are starting to see why I truly think we are reaching a critical end game here when it comes to the number of coins on exchanges. And again, I've been in Bitcoin 8 years. I've never seen such a perfect setup for a Bitcoin bull run than what we are seeing right now. Because again, some people will say, zoom out, Luke. This is just the news that's happened in the past week or two. You know, I don't think it's fair that you, Luke, are cherry picking that data. Well, let's zoom out. Let's have a look at a trend that I think right now is actually scaring the socks off me. This here is the number of Bitcoin on exchanges over the past 2.5 years. Again, it's a zoomed out chart. And if you look at the past 6 months since November 2024, you can see there's 2.9 million Bitcoin on exchanges. Today, there is 2.4 million Bitcoin on exchanges. We're nearly seeing 100,000 Bitcoin ripped off the exchanges every single month. There's 2.5 million Bitcoin on exchanges today. If we see the same data of the past 6 months continue forward, we got no Bitcoin on exchanges in 25 months. That's 2 years and 1 month away. There would be no Bitcoin on exchanges. Let me repeat myself, by July 2027. I know what you guys are probably thinking. Oh, the Bitcoin price is dumping right now. That's what many people are thinking. Ash in the comments has called me out. The price of Bitcoin is dumping right now. But again, a supply suffocation does not mean, okay, 1,000 coins come off the exchange, Bitcoin price has to moon tomorrow. The power law fanboys, I don't know why, but they seem to think that is what we mean when we're talking about the supply suffocation. That is not what I mean. The supply suffocation and the real price of Bitcoin, it's going to be discovered all at once. My hypothesis is that we're going to get into a world where there's no Bitcoin on exchanges by 2028. And the true price of Bitcoin, we're probably going to find out overnight. I agree. There is, if you look at the data, there is no correlation between the price of Bitcoin in the short term and what's that? The supply suffocation. Never tried to claim that, but what I think is fascinating is that it's accelerating. We can see right here, 21. So this is another company we haven't even talked about yet, but this is the competitor to MicroStrategy. This is the company stood up by Jack Mallers, Tether, and Cantor Fitzgerald. Again, the man in charge of America's sovereign wealth fund. Just their first buy, as you can see by this chart, it ripped 10% of the existing Bitcoin supply off of the exchange, Bitfinex. This is not a supply shock, it's a demand shock. That chart, again, it is insane watching just how quickly all of this Bitcoin is being ripped off the exchanges. And it's really not slowing down. Every time I pull up this chart I'm about to show you, the number of public Bitcoin companies, it's only increasing. Have a look at that. We now have 223 publicly traded companies with Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And if we actually, again, crunch the maths a little bit more, again, I'm going to show you guys the numbers behind why I'm so scared of the supply shock that Tom Lee is openly talking about on national news. We can see if we just have a look at the public companies, let's have a look at how much Bitcoin they hold. Let's remember the majority of this Bitcoin has been bought in the past 2 years. Again, Michael Saylor was a little bit of a lone wolf there for 2020 and 2021. There weren't many people brave enough to follow him, but we can now see this 800,000 Bitcoin sat on the treasuries of public companies, and the large majority of these public corporate holders of Bitcoin are openly saying they're not going to sell. They want to compete with MicroStrategy, and Bitcoin's a long-term treasury reserve asset. Think about that for a minute. 800,000 Bitcoin. The large majority of that 800,000 Bitcoin stack has been put onto the balance sheet in the past 2 years. How much Bitcoin is mined a year? Let's do some quick maths together. How about that? Because I haven't crunched the numbers, so we're going to be doing it live. So there's 450 Bitcoin mined every day. So 450 times by 365, there's 164,000 Bitcoin mined every single year. Let's say this trend's been going on for the past 2 years. That means there's what, 328,000 Bitcoin mined over the past 2 years? And just the public companies as we can see, we zoom in here, just the public companies have bought 800,000 Bitcoin. And I really do think, I've been screaming this from the rooftops for the past 4 years, this trend is going to continue. And I've been screaming it from the rooftops since 2021. If the trend continues, we got no Bitcoin on exchanges by late 2020s. The kind of date that I've chosen is 2030. And I think it's all over by 2030. Again, you can tell me I'm wrong. You can tell me I'm crazy. But I've been screaming this from the rooftops for the past 4 years. And again, people told me I was crazy in 2021 for even suggesting the trend would continue and we would continue to see coins fly off the exchange like we've seen. But you guys can see the data. It's pretty clear. Coins are flying off the exchanges. And I think our chance to buy Bitcoin, it's rapidly shrinking away. This is why I'm going to continue ringing the bell, ringing the alarm bell, so to say, and saying what is an unpopular opinion in the Bitcoin space. Everybody calls me crazy when I say we've literally got years left. But I truly think we've only got a matter of years left because companies like Logitech are buying Bitcoin. Or Logtech. My girlfriend's using a Logitech mouse literally as we are on this live streams. Now, I do want to talk about the supply shock and the potential short squeeze that's setting up because Yuri mentioned something I do want to cover in today's video, and that is what are the hedge funds doing? Because the hedge funds are aggressively shorting Bitcoin right now. They're shorting the paper market, and meanwhile in the physical spot market, we're seeing the available supply literally drop like a rock, which again, I think is really concerning, but that's not really where I want to take the conversation just yet. We will circle back around to it towards the end of today's video. But what I think is more concerning and more interesting is the fact that we're not just looking at public companies and private companies buying Bitcoin at an insane rate, but we're now beginning to slowly but surely see nation states also come to the same realization that most of you guys on today's stream have come to. And most people, like, this is the big concerning thing. People like Tom Lee, who is a respected analyst, is also kind of highlighting and pointing out. He's saying the quiet parts out loud. And again, Tom was one of the reasons why I initially got into Bitcoin years and years ago. Because when Bitcoin was $3,000 a coin, he was going on national news and he was saying it's going to 100. And people laughed at him. People straight up just laughed at Tom Lee at the time. And I mean, look at the price now. Guess what? We're at $100,000. And now when he's saying Bitcoin's going to hit $3 million, people are, guess what? Once again, laughing at Tom Lee, saying it's never going to happen. I don't know what you're talking about. It's just not going to happen. But not only is it happening, and not only are we seeing public companies adopt Bitcoin at a pretty rapid rate, but we're even seeing nation states join the race, which I think is really interesting. Because I was paying attention, I'm always paying attention to what China is doing. But China's neighbor, kind of, South Korea, has also now sent a Bitcoin warning to the rest of the world. They have also just elected another pro-Bitcoin president in their country. And let's not forget, they're not the only country who have done that. This week, we brought you the news of the Polish pro-Bitcoin presidential candidate who just won his election. And all of this is happening at the same time that Russia's largest bank has just launched a Bitcoin bond, believe it or not. And then let's not forget, we now have 4 different countries in Europe all proposing to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve. We got Sweden, we've got London, we got the Czech Republic, and we have others. And all of this news is happening at the same time that we have these brand new 3 public companies coming out and buying 10 weeks worth of the Bitcoin supply in under 1 week. And these are just the new companies. We're not talking about MicroStrategy, MetaPlanet. We're not talking about all of the guys who have been aggressively buying Bitcoin consistently over the past 24 months. We're not even talking about BlackRock, the one entity that's squatting on nearly 3% of the Bitcoin supply. We're just talking about nation states now. And it looks as if Donald Trump has started nation state Bitcoin FOMO. And I do think it's just a matter of time before these nation states will be actively printing money to buy Bitcoin. Sounds crazy, but they're already actively printing money to buy MicroStrategy. That's the really crazy thing we're seeing unfold today in 2025. Before we get there, let's bring you the most recent news that happened. South Korea has openly come out and elected a president who promised to allow Bitcoin ETFs if they were elected. And guess what's happened? They've elected him. Let's try to read his name. I apologize in advance if I butcher it, but presidential candidate Lee Jae-myung has just won the South Korean election. And he's promised to legalize ETFs and invest state pension funds into Bitcoin. That's the kicker there, guys. I want you guys to be very aware of pension funds. This isn't $1 billion, a 10 billion, 100 billion, or even $1 trillion market. The pension fund market is a market that is tens of trillions, maybe even hundreds of trillions of dollars in size. And if even just 1%, 2%, 5% of that market continues doing what it has been doing over the past 5 years, we're going to get to that in a minute. We're not talking about $500,000 Bitcoin. We're not talking about $1 million Bitcoin. If Bitcoin starts chipping away at these markets that are hundreds of trillions of dollars in size, we're talking about a Bitcoin market cap in the tens, if not hundreds of trillions of dollars. And that means we're talking about a Bitcoin price in the tens, maybe even hundreds of millions of dollars per coin. I get it. You're going to call me crazy, but let me walk you through the different markets that Bitcoin is eating into right now. Again, this isn't speculative. It's happening. We can see right here. South Korea's president, he's pro-Bitcoin. Russia's biggest bank is creating Bitcoin bonds. Why do we care about Bitcoin's bonds? Bitcoin bonds, I should say. What is happening in Russia? Why is Russia now starting to dabble into the Bitcoin market? Well, let's not forget what happened when Russia's US treasuries were frozen. Since then, since 2022, the world has kind of been making a little bit of a pivot. Let's call it what it is. It has been a pivot because Russia was kind of forced to come to the realization that we all know on this live stream. Anything outside of Bitcoin, it's not something you can own. You can only own Bitcoin, nothing else. We all understand that. There is 648 of you guys on this live stream between Twitter and YouTube. Again, thank you to everyone who's joining. I hope you're having a blast here, and I hope you guys are as bullish as me, because I think it's inevitable that we do see 1 sat per USD price. It's coming. It's coming. Absolutely, it's coming. I got even more bullish things coming. So if you are enjoying this bullish rip, I would appreciate a molesting of the like button down below. And again, make sure you are subscribed, because I am going to be posting a lot more content, including some huge interviews over the next couple of weeks. Before we get there, let's talk a little bit more about what Slapshot in the chat has just said. Too much adoption and supply issues. That's exactly what we're seeing. Because we don't just have these public companies that Tom Lee is talking about. We've got nation states joining the race, and nation states straight up have a money printer to print money and buy Bitcoin. And again, I know some people will think that's speculative, but it's happening. We know it's happening. We talk about it all the time. I feel like a broken record. We can see the Swiss National Bank is straight up not only buying MicroStrategy, but they just bought more MicroStrategy literally today. Check this out. So we've got the Swiss Central Bank increases its $38 million stake in MicroStrategy. It's happening every week, every month. It's happening. Again, I like deep dives. I like making deep dive videos for you guys. I try not to make news-based content all the time, but the news is so bullish, sometimes I just get sucked in. Because have a look. I think you guys need to be aware that this is the holdings of MicroStrategy by the Swiss National Bank. Again, Switzerland. They're not a joke. They're not in El Salvador. They're not a tiny country like the Kingdom of Bhutan. We're talking about Switzerland, the last country to leave the gold standard in the 1990s, and the country that is considered a global safe haven. The entire world parks its gold at Switzerland. Central banks from other countries trust Switzerland to say, okay, a minute, can you please hold my gold? Right? Switzerland's a serious country when it comes to the global monetary system. And now their central bank is openly printing money to buy shares of MicroStrategy. And I always ask you guys the question, do you think they're really buying Michael Saylor's company for his business intelligence software? No, of course they're not. They want Bitcoin exposure. This is how they're going to do it. They're going to quietly buy MicroStrategy shares privately, and publicly they're going to say, oh, don't trust Bitcoin. Don't trust Bitcoin. Bitcoin's unsafe. Buy my volatile poo coin, the Swiss franc. This is just the game that he's playing. Again, some people think I'm reading too much into who is buying MicroStrategy and who is publicly bashing Bitcoin. Again, I'll let you guys come to your own conclusions. All right, let's move on, because I've got even more bullish news on the nation state front. I just want to walk through with you guys. So, all right, South Korea, they're a big deal. Of course, they're a big deal. Their neighbor, Kim Jong-un in North Korea, has the 5th largest Bitcoin treasury in the entire world. For those who missed it, let's bring you up to speed, because right now this nation state race is kind of heating up here, so to say. I think the Kim Jong-un, holdings of Bitcoin, I think it's going unnoticed. So this is the chart. This is the nation state holdings of Bitcoin. We can see the US, China, the UK squatting on 61,000 big ones. The Ukraine, again, I always tell you guys, don't you think it's interesting? The tiny country of Ukraine holds 46,000 Bitcoin. Think about everything that's happening there. That is all I'm going to say on that topic. I do think it's interesting. That's it. What will some of you say? Correlation is not causation. Sure. Just think about it. Let's move on. Let's think about some facts, some hard data. The hard data that I'm missing, oh no, it's North Korea. North Korea is not on my list. Let me find another list. I can assure you now, though, that North Korea has, I think it's 12,000 Bitcoin in their nation state treasury. Here we go. This website, Bitcoin Treasuries, is backing me up here. I went to water there for a minute. I was a little bit scared. I didn't have the data for you guys, but here it is. North Korea, they hold 13,562 big ones. They have the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th largest Bitcoin treasury in the world. And again, look, there's an interesting caveat here with Ukraine on this website. Ukraine, brackets, holdings of public officials. Again, if I go back to the official holdings here, no other country has a caveat or a brackets there. Just another thing that makes you go, Do your own research. I encourage you guys to dive down that rabbit hole for yourself. It's an interesting one. The point that I'm trying to show you is that North Korea, okay, they've got the 5th largest Bitcoin treasury in the world. South Korea said for a long time, I don't care what my arch enemy and my competitor across the border, North Korea, is doing. We won't adopt Bitcoin. But now they've pivoted. Now they've said, all right, enough is enough. We're going to elect a pro-Bitcoin presidential leader. And guess what that means? That means we now have a $1.7 trillion giant FOMOing into Bitcoin. Like I said about Switzerland, guys, these aren't little countries now adopting Bitcoin. We're well and truly past the El Salvadors, the Kingdom of the Bhutans. We're now in the big boy league. We're now in Switzerland. We're now talking about South Korea, a country of a $1.7 trillion GDP, adopting Bitcoin and electing pro-Bitcoin presidents. Poland, from memory, I think they're like the 20th largest country around the world. Let's fact check myself live. Poland GDP, 800 billion. Not a joke, guys. They're a big country. They might be small in population, but Poland right now is just another country openly electing a pro-Bitcoin president. And I'm telling you, the FOMO is only accelerating because there's a few more countries here on this list that we're going to be analyzing today and taking a little bit of a peep under the hood to see exactly what they are doing, because we haven't even got to half of the bullish news I want to show you guys. Again, before we get there, if you want to beat the public companies, the billionaires and the nation states, I really, truly think we've only got a couple of years left. Again, start buying your Bitcoin today. Get started today. Do not wait, because I do think it's only a matter of time. If you use the link down below in the description of today's video, you can sign up with the Bitcoin Well to start buying your Bitcoin today. I've partnered with the guys because I use them myself and I love what they stand for. They don't hold your Bitcoin. They encourage you to take self-custody of your Bitcoin. And that is the revolution. So again, take advantage of the Bitcoin Well. Get started buying Bitcoin today, and they're going to give you free Bitcoin in the form of tokens to play the wishing well. Go and check them out. I think they're the best exchange in the space, and I only ever encourage you guys to check out companies that I'm personally using and partnering with myself. Of course, another one of those is Stampseed. Once you've bought your Bitcoin, you don't hold it on an exchange. Once you've got it in your own hardware wallet, I always encourage you guys to back up the hardware wallets with titanium. Do not go writing down your Bitcoin 12 or 24 words on this kind of stuff, right? It's paper. This does not survive fires. This does not survive floods. Your precious Bitcoin 12 or 24 words should not be on this. Again, I wipe my ass with this stuff. It should not be used to back up your Bitcoin. That's why I always encourage you guys to check out what Stampseed is doing. They have titanium plates. Again, what do I say? Stainless steel is not good enough. Not going to name names. A lot of companies in the space use stainless steel. I don't use them. I don't recommend you use them because I think titanium is better. That's all I'm going to say. Check out the titanium plates from Stampseed, and you can use that promo code Luke15 to get 15% off anything you want to buy. Now, let's enter the bullish part of today's live stream. I want to get crazy. I want to get bullish. I want to get nuts. Because a lot of people say, okay, the bull run's coming. What do I do in the bull run, Luke? If Bitcoin goes to $1 million a coin, what happens? What should I do? Well, again, I don't think you should sell your Bitcoin. I think what you should do is you should find a way to borrow against your Bitcoin. I always tell you, don't sell your Bitcoin. Don't pay the fees. Don't take the tax hit, so to say. This is why I am pretty happy to let you know about my newest sponsor. That is FIREFISH. So again, these guys are a Bitcoin borrowing company. They allow you to borrow against your Bitcoin, or they even enable you to lend your Bitcoin in the peer-to-peer market. This is interesting because they are fully hypothecated. Okay, they're not like Celsius. They're not like BlockFi. They are not like all of these other companies that have gone bankrupt over the past few years. They are fully reserved, they're fully backed, and they operate in the peer-to-peer market. This is why I love FIREFISH. And again, you guys can check them out. And if you want to start using them, you can actually get 30% off your fees if you use a promo code Luke. So again, everything you need to know to prepare, survive, and thrive during this Bitcoin bull run is linked down below. Now let's get bullish. Is Tom Lee correct when he's talking about $3 million Bitcoin? Is it possible we see it this cycle? I know it's crazy. It's a little bit out there, but that's what I want to get into this second little part of today's live stream, because I can see the comments. There's a lot of people saying, when do we see $3 million Bitcoin? When does all this craziness and bullishness come to a head? So I showed you guys the maths. I think we got no Bitcoin in exchanges by 2027. That's when I think things are going to get really interesting. And that's when, to McHoddle's comment in the chat, that is when you are absolutely going to have to be holding the thing yourself. As simple as that. If you ain't holding your own Bitcoin by 2027, I don't know what to say to you guys. I've been encouraging you for a long time to hold your own Bitcoin. And I get it. People are new to Bitcoin. Sometimes we have to hear the same messages once or twice or even thrice before we actually take action, which is why we do these videos as often as we do them. Please do not hold your Bitcoin on Coinbase. I'm going to be careful with what I say, because again, you can make an argument Brian Armstrong has done a lot of good things for Bitcoin in the space. So I'm not going to attack the man. I'm just going to attack the idea. Please don't store your Bitcoin on any exchange, especially an exchange who has thousands of altcoins on it. It's very clear. They're not mission aligned. They are certainly not going to be taking good care of your Bitcoin if they have thousands of altcoins. They're pretty clearly just in it for the profit. That's what I will say. They're not here for the mission. They're not here to protect your Bitcoin. Ooh, spicy comments. I think I encouraged some spicy comments there. Very spicy comments. The hair's never getting cut. It's only going to get more wild. Now, I typically agree with the Bitcoin stacker of last resort in the comment section. Another regular. Thanks again for tuning in, legend. So many of you guys have been tuning in for so long. I still pinch myself that there is 800 of you guys on this live stream listen to this crazy rant. But I agree. $3 million is coming within the decade. Couldn't agree more. $3 million is incredibly conservative. And like we continue to show you guys every week, the game theory, it's accelerating. It's only getting more and more wild by the day. Who was the 69th like? I can't see it on the interface how many likes we have, but if you are enjoying today's live stream, I would appreciate that. Small things like that does kind of help push this content in front of more eyeballs here on YouTube. So I am told. Headbutt the like, says Dean. Give it a head button. Please, curse clips, do not sell your own Bitcoin. Don't sell it. Because nation states are going to buy it off you. Now, again, I promised I'd have a look at these other nation states. Let's take a peep. These are the nation states just in Europe talking about a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Now, again, this is pretty huge because who's on this list? The 18th century global reserve currency and global empire, the UK. Why is the UK now talking about creating a strategic Bitcoin reserve? Well, that is because a very popular presidential candidate, Nigel Farage, is saying he's not only accepting Bitcoin donations for his political campaign, but he's even saying he's going to establish, you guys can see it, Bitcoin reserve and I get it, dirty word, crypto legislation once he is in government. We are going to launch in Britain a crypto revolution. We're going to make London one of the major trading centers of the world, Nigel Farage said. That's huge. I don't need to reinforce that to you guys. That's huge. It's big. Nobody's talking about it. It's insane. It is insane. Again, to put some numbers on it, the UK has a 68 million person population. This is getting nuts. This is beginning to get crazy. We are, again, like I continue to say to you guys, it is no longer small countries. The big boys, the big countries, and the big nation states right now are competing for Bitcoin. It is an arms race. It is happening, and it is not slowing down. Oh, I got a great question I'm going to circle back at. I got a great question we're going to circle back to. Richard Jones, maybe I'll shave my head at $1 million. If you guys start a movement in the comment section down below, who knows? What's your price? What's everybody's price? I want to know. For me, I'm telling you what, it's more than 1 million sats. If someone sent me 1 million sats and told me to shave my head, maybe I'd consider it. Maybe. 10 million sats, I'd do it. But let's circle back to that at the end of today's stream. Let's talk a little bit more about these other European giants who are adopting Bitcoin. Because again, the past week of news, it's kind of getting insane here. It's kind of like hard to keep on top of just how bullish some of the news is surrounding Bitcoin right now. It's, again, I'm genuinely concerned that we do have only a matter of days left, before we actually see some really wild Bitcoin price movements. Because we now even have Sweden, a country with a not too shabby $585 billion GDP. Guess what? Also slowly but surely becoming Bitcoin curious. Why is that? What's happening in Sweden? Well, we now have an MP in Sweden saying that he wants to propose a Bitcoin reserve to the finance minister. Again, I don't think this is as bullish as what's happening in the UK or some of these other countries. But we can see FOMO is clearly accelerating. Yes, Sweden is proposing to include Bitcoin in its national reserves. It's openly being talked about. It's happening. We have politicians everywhere openly saying it's undeniable. We need to adopt Bitcoin. It's as simple as that. Every single nation state is coming to that realization. Whether it's in Poland, whether it's in Sweden, whether it's in England, or even Russia's largest bank creating Bitcoin bonds. It's coming, it's spreading, and it's not slowing down, and it is only accelerating, which is why I am personally, I'm very bullish. I'm very optimistic on the next 12 months. Let me kind of rein myself in here for a moment, and let me just say, look, I'm incredibly bullish because I just don't think this train is slowing down. I genuinely think the train has left the station. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm just going to encourage you guys to prepare, because most people haven't thought about what happens when things get really crazy and when things get super volatile. Because I just don't think this is slowing down. This trend is not slowing down. And it's only a matter of time before it's all over. Now, again, that's just my thoughts. I tell you, don't always listen to me. Listen to experts. Listen to people who have been in the space longer than a 28-year-old kid with a crazy haircut, right? Which is why I recently reached out to a money manager with 30 years of experience, Peter Dunworth, and British Hodl, another man with decades of experience in the investing space. And I asked them, what are you guys seeing? In a recent interview I dropped yesterday. And Peter told me that some of the clients that he has in Australia, where he manages money, his boomer clients are openly dumping real estate to buy Bitcoin. That's what he said. And British is more bullish than ever before. So if you have missed that interview, I'm going to put a link up on screen somewhere around there. That's going to take you straight to that interview. Highly encourage you guys to check it out. And all that said, thank you so much to the 942 of you guys tuning in between Twitter and YouTube. I always have a blast joining the live chat with you guys on a Wednesday afternoon. So thank you so much to everyone who joined. I'll see you all in the next one. And again, check out that video that I'll link somewhere over there.